Hi, I'm Paul,
I'm Owen.
and we're Broken Bullish.
Join us this week when we discuss if you should join the crypto industry. Paul, welcome back.
Owen, good to be back.
Broken Bullish, episode 2. What sort of response did you have after last week's conversation?
Pretty positive one. A lot of friends and family obviously showing some support, but good to see some other people coming on board, which was great. So thank you to those people and thank you to everyone else that are watching it. What about you?
Yeah, very positive feedback from my mum, my sister, and my brother as well. So very encouraging. I think, obviously last week we talked about the crypto market and whether, I suppose, what it looks like to make a move from traditional finance into crypto and Web3. I think this week what we wanted to touch on a little bit more was really how realistic that was, or whether people should consider it. So I suppose to kick us off, do you have any opening thoughts in terms of whether people should look at making that kind of move?
Yeah, definitely. I think to touch on some of the points that we left on last week is that if you're open to being a bit of a pioneer and a trailblazer, will be engaging in a space that it is, ready for the taking. But the interesting thing, obviously we spoke a lot about my experience last week. I think it's more about your experience as a recruiter. You obviously work with some crypto and blockchain businesses here in Melbourne. What are you hearing from them? How do you feel about the recruitment phase is for them?
I think if I look at crypto clients specifically over the 5 years that I've been doing finance recruitment in Melbourne, what I see is that crypto is really in a category all by its own. So the first 3 years that I worked in Melbourne, I probably never saw a company grow by more than 10% in any 12-month window. There was crypto clients that I worked with, one in particular, that grew from 40 to over 210 people in about an 18-month window. So the potential that the businesses have, I think, to ramp up and to expand is really unique. In saying that, those businesses now, what we're seeing, are kind of contracting at a fairly strong rate as well. There was an article in the AFR recently about Banksa, who are a digital payments business, who were downsizing by, I think, about 30%, which represented about 60 people that they were cutting from their workforce. So the kind of volatility that we've seen in the markets, I think, is kind of also prevalent in the headcounts of companies as well. So as we touched on last week, the risk appetite to be in the space in general is probably a level above what it is in any other industry, and I think people need to prepare for that before paving their way into it.
Yeah, and that's definitely true, and that was that's definitely my thoughts wholeheartedly. But you touched on a very interesting point, like some of these businesses that you've seen in Melbourne, where in a traditional business model, you would see at most a 10% growth. You just said you've seen over 500% growth within your short tenure in Melbourne. Of course, you're very established in the Melbourne community right now, so kudos to you. But there is nothing short of remarkable to see a business grow 5 times within a short time frame. Credit where credit's due as well to Banksa. Although they may be paring back a little bit of growth, of course they are a listed business, so they are at the behest of shareholders' expectations and price earnings ratios and budgeting that flows on from that. They have still grown at a remarkable rate, and I feel that from of course from an employee perspective, it's not a great position to be in if you were the one let go. But I think from a business and industry perspective, it's that is the risk, I think, inherent to joining this industry. Would you agree?
100%, yeah. I think that sort of growth is only possible if you've got pretty well-established funders that are coming in to support those businesses, and that's definitely something that we've seen so far. I think this is kind of the first innings from a business perspective, the first kind of run-up that companies have had with kind of aggressive growth, the first bull market, let's say, for crypto companies and crypto headcount. How that's going to transfer into hopefully further bull markets, and how those companies are going to evolve from here is going to be interesting to see. But there's no doubt that even if you look at high growth kind of private equity environments, or startups that have had aggressive growth plans, personally I haven't seen anybody match the speed of growth that there has been in crypto so far.
No, I think I tend to agree with that, but there you have the dynamic of high risk and high reward playing out once again. I think here is probably a good thought. Obviously we're looking future focused for the industry, less so of particular assets within this industry. But how do you feel about things like the RBA accelerating some of their digital currency growth, and whilst also pairing that with some very bullish valuations within the crypto space? Again, risk and reward, there's high risk attached to those valuations. Do you see that putting, you've got two different polar opposite objectives right there? You've got a reserve bank potentially adopting a cryptocurrency, and also very bullish valuations coming from private equity space and venture capitalists. Do you feel that these two things work hand in hand together, although from a conservative perspective and a risk perspective, to spur on future crypto employment in Australia?
I think they do work hand in hand to a certain extent. Obviously, where I specialise is finance recruitment. The business that I work for, Robert Half, we've got kind of three key pillars that we focus on: technology, finance, and business support more generally. I think if you look at the technology side and the developers specifically, it's quite interesting to track where they're going. Ultimately, they're the people that are building the future that we're going to interact with. I think personally there's more, anecdotally what I'm hearing is there's more interest from a candidate perspective to go into more of these Web3 and DeFi and decentralized related projects, rather than going into working on building a central bank digital currency. So I'm optimistic that that's going to manifest into kind of more well-established and well-developed projects in that space, rather than the central bank currencies or government-backed projects. But there's no doubt that they're going to be part of the future as well, and you can see that the momentum is clearly ramping up from all governments, I think, to try and compete and to have a seat at that table as well.
Definitely. I think there's a momentum occurring right now, and of course I have a biased opinion, but I do believe that there's a genuine momentum right now in the crypto space. The question I have, and probably, of course, I spoke to my experiences last time we met about transitioning across, but I think a lot of people would be looking in on perception from crypto. Would you agree? They would say, crypto is for money launderers. Crypto is unregulated. It's the Wild West. I feel like, of course, I can give my opinion, but from the perspective of someone who works in the industry and places people, what do you think some of the perception issues are there?
So I guess that's probably more of a question around utility, and what sort of use cases you can see for the technology, blockchain and decentralized kind of technology in general. I know we touched on Satsand last week, and their carbon credits blockchain that they were building. Personally, I've seen now, the UFC and the NBA are kind of two sporting organizations that I'm quite interested in. I've seen that they've started working with a company called Dapper Labs to build out their NFT products. So essentially building out scarce digital clips of
sporting highlights,
which are they're being developed through a company called Dapper Labs. They're being traded through Ethereum as the currency to buy them. So the utility, I think, is starting to take shape in some scale, which is very encouraging. But still early days.
So I think what you're saying there is that the utility will lead the way of a bit of a change in perception for the space. I think fundamentally what the story that is being told is about crypto is that it is for the dark side of finance. Effectively, it's for more of the people who are looking to avoid taxation and things of this nature, when I find that it's quite the opposite, actually. Ironically, like crypto is, deriving from a Greek word meaning secret, yet in this digital age, that not much is kept secret on the net. So you can actually find out a lot about people. And I think that, crypto transactions, crypto payments, being a public ledger, being totally verifiable, being able to run analytics over it at a moment's notice. I've seen it personally across my desk. I could tell some very interesting stories. Potentially I'll check in with my lawyer before I do that, before divulging it on this platform. But I can say for a fact there's been instances where crypto has actually done the opposite of, I think, what it's perceived to do, which is facilitate some very scary payments. But it's an interesting thought, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think crypto being used to facilitate crime and crypto being an enemy of proactive climate change policy are probably two of the most frequent reservations that people have, or hesitations they have about the space and about the technology. Last week, I know we briefly touched on ETH2 and ETH 2.0 and the merge that was upcoming, and what that product could look like after the merge, and how it could look as a greener, more sustainable version. Is that something that clients of yours have been asking about a lot?
Yeah, like a lot of my clients are focused on primarily price action in the market. They have, unfortunately experienced a lot of negative, a lot of red right now. So they're looking to invest and find that green. But I think one of the things leading the way, as you touched on, is Ethereum 2.0. Effectively, the merge is building in scarcity within the marketplace in that particular asset. And as the second most prominent cryptocurrency asset, and one that's actually used globally, I feel like that has a pretty exciting future ahead of it. I'm not sure what that will mean for price action, but boiling it down to its core principles, it is fundamentally reducing supply and making the environment in which it's delivered to people more sustainable. So I think that those are beneficial things to people that hold Ethereum and use Ethereum, as well as people that want to, and people that are looking from the outside in, wanting to get involved in it. But definitely interesting. I think it's a positive. It's something that is actually happening this year. It's something that we will definitely be talking about in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But it's something that does have to actually occur first, and we can analyse it after, of course, as innocent bystanders. But it's interesting. So I think before we get to the point where we sort of wrap it up, because it is a quick conversation. So is there anything, any parting message that you would like to leave the people that have been kind enough to watch us gas bag for this long?
I think if you think about crypto now as an asset class being 13 years old, it's obviously nascent. I think from a business perspective, it's even younger than that. We're at the very beginning. I think Ethereum, Bitcoin are probably the two major projects that are worth putting time into trying to understand. And what I'm seeing is that when people do that and they think about the future that those projects are trying to facilitate, that's where the interest for people actually going and investing their careers in the space is coming from, wanting to be part of the change and wanting to just establish themselves in that space as well. So I know we've got an event coming up this week or later next week with DeFi Australia to kind of reconnect with some people who are active in that space. I think I'd encourage people to try and be active in their communities or with their friend group around these kind of conversations, and to explore them as much as they can.
Yeah, look, I'd echo those thoughts, Owen, but I think, as you said, it's about getting involved in the future and also getting involved in your broader community here in Melbourne as well, that we're out here and we're happy to have a conversation, so please reach out. But look, I'm Paul Siarabalos and
I'm Eoin Dolan.
we've been Broken Bullish Episode 2.
Cheers.
Thank you.